You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Hey man, did you go in that slaughter room or whatever they call it? The place where they shoot the cattle in the head with that big air gun thing.
Oh, that gun's no good.
I was in there once with my uncle.
No way. With a sledge. See, that was better. They died better that way.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to dissect and discuss classic horror films, both old and new. I'm your host, Saul Muerte, and I'm joined by the big cheese, Anthony Yee. Welcome aboard.
G'day, hello.
Good to have you on board, buddy.
Thank you.
And we're just, can't believe we're hitting season 5 of the Surgeons of Horror podcast already.
Season 5.
Season 5. And we're
Have you renewed your contract, Miles and Nick?
Yeah. I hope so. I hope you're on board.
We all should probably unionize, but we didn't.
Tumbleweed. I just got distracted by your swords.
I have three samurai swords in my house. We're doing this in my house. They're behind me. One is red, which I got from Comic-Con. We'll pick this up. Sections of the house. And I wanted a blue samurai sword. Couldn't find one. But third samurai sword, if you describe it to the viewers out there, looks a bit decrepit. Looks very old.
Yeah.
It was found by my uncle in a dumpster back in 1960-something.
Oh my god.
We're fairly sure it's pretty authentic.
Yeah.
Because it is an actual, like if you unsheath it, it's wrapped. The handle's wrapped in bamboo, and the sword, the actual blade itself can cut. And I've cut bottle tops off with it when I was a kid. I thought I'd lost it.
Oh.
It's my uncle's sword, and I found it in my house years later, and haven't told him that I've got it because we're pretty sure it's fairly authentic. Whereas the other swords are all decorative. So there you go. I have a sword that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you want that known on podcast?
But it's not a real sword.
Not real.
Not real.
I mean, you can cut off bottle tops, but yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of swords, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
That's a good segue.
Yeah. So, season 5, we're going to be looking at the early Tobe Hooper films. Like, he passed away 2 years ago now, hard to believe.
I thought it was longer.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And we've kind of, some of these podcasts we've been doing, the seasons have been kind of geared around particular film auteurs. And we kicked everything off with Wes Craven.
Where's Craven?
Crazy Wes Craven. Where's Craven?
Where's Craven?
Originally, we kicked everything off. We talked about Wes Craven's early films. We've since done John Carpenter's early films too. And now we're kind of bringing Tobe Hooper into the equation. And his first ever film was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But part of this run of events that we're going to be looking at, we are going to be looking at some of his other films early on. And we're going to be looking at films like Eaten Alive, The Funhouse, Salem's Lot.
Wait, say that again.
Eaten Alive.
Eaten alive. Eaten alive.
And then Salem's Lot. Have you got a song for that one? We are sober. Salem's Lot, The Funhouse, and
Madness. Dun, 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 dun. How's it go? We have found a house in the.
Madness.
Madness, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the Funhouse?
Welcome to the house of fun. Now I've come of age. Welcome to the lion's den.
Na.
So the Funhouse, and there's a bunch of others in there like Invaders from Mars and Life Force.
Patrick Stewart.
Hold on, that's not Patrick Stewart. But anyway,
Life Force.
Gotta give you some Life Force. Then we're going to talk about Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Poltergeist, and then round things off with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Wow, he did all those
Before
films.
we then we're going to lynch off that to go into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise discussions too.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a double one, this one. With Tobe Hooper's other films, followed by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But this is the one that kick-started it all.
Yes.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes, it is. It's actually the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Because I assume chainsaw was one word, like most people.
No.
And it's actually two words in the spelling of the title.
Yep, that's right.
And
idea what that was.
John Larroquette, the voiceover guy,
Yeah.
actually says, if you listen to his voiceover, he says it's known as the Texas Chain Saw Massacre.
Yeah.
And it's weird that he said the word paws.
Yeah, I think he was talking about bear
Dogs.
paws.
Bear
Or
paws or dog paws?
Dog paws.
Yeah.
And
then the theme of Night Court comes in. I can't remember what Night Court was.
Oh my god, this is going to be interesting to listen back to. So my actual point was that I was going to mention Tobe Hooper. This wasn't his first movie. He did like a bit of a experimental kind of really artsy film.
Oh. Okay.
That was called Eggshells.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really experimental and arty.
Mm.
But it's not horror. So hence why I
Was that his like film school graduation
yeah,
film?
kind of, yeah. Look, it's really hard to track it down to.
Right, okay.
But yeah, so I am fighting a sneeze, so I really have to apologise. Woo. So like he did do this kind of experimental film. There was another one that I've never heard of as well that was in there called The Song Is Love. But we are kickstarting with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So did he fall into a horror film the way Wes Craven filmed it?
Kind of with this one, yeah. Like, and this is something that I think will be interesting for us. And we are focusing on Hooper's early films, as I said. And it'll be interesting because I know you've seen Poltergeist.
Mm.
It's hard to talk about that one because of Spielberg's hand on it, right?
Fingerprints are all over it.
Because, and we will talk about Poltergeist when we get to talk about that particular podcast, in the podcast dedicated to that. But I kind of like the arc that we're going to join into that journey when we get to that one, because something that I've noticed about Hooper's work is that he's very guerrilla in his style of approach, right? And experimental in it as well. And even the way he collaborates with both cast and crew. Mm-hmm. There is this kind of very happy-go-lucky kind of approach to things. And I think that's probably where Poltergeist, Spielberg, and I don't want to. Yeah, I think it might have been the case where, because Spielberg was producing and financing Poltergeist, right?
Yeah.
So I pretty much get the impression that he would have gone, yeah, maybe I'll just take this.
Yeah, very different work ethic from that point of view, because Spielberg is very, very methodical.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Just the way you see how his films, how he shot the setup and how they lead into one another. They're very contrived in a non-judgmental way. They're very constructed. It's a better word. Also, the rumor I heard is that Hooper was drug fucked for most of Poltergeist. The whole two sides story thing. Yeah.
And we'll go into more detail when we get to Poltergeist. Yeah. So because we're here for Texas, and there's some interesting things about Texas before we kind of launch into it, because arguably it's the first ever slasher film.
I was going to say that when I just recently saw it. I can't emphasize the word recently enough. But
I forgot to do that. I usually say, when was the first time you encountered this movie?
Yeah, well...
So maybe we'll do that. We'll talk about that now. So
okay, well, the first time I encountered this movie, and at least I've seen it, Ben Skinner. It is a zeitgeist film. Everybody knows about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And being a film person, I knew it was done by Tobe Hooper.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen the film. So it's a bit like you, a non-massive... You know about cricket, you're not a massive cricket fan.
Yeah,
but I tell you about the Ashes, you know what the Ashes are.
I do.
It's the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
It was that sort of film. But I didn't appreciate how prototypical it was in that so many films. I mean, I kind of did, but I didn't really join the dots consciously enough until I saw this film, just how many other films were borrowed from it.
Yeah.
The whole kids in a combi thing, kids going to a cabin in the woods thing, even it was being sent up by a film, The Cabin in the Woods, all came from this film. Torture porn, which was a whole genre that came out, not really big until the early noughties, comes from this. Yeah, I feel. All of it, all the cliches, the crazy serial killer.
Yes,
because 60s, and this is an interesting topic too. There was an article I read that header of, and I haven't actually read the article, where have all the serial killers gone?
Yeah.
There's not that many serial killers active these days in the United States, whereas the United States had an infestation of serial killers in the 60s and 70s. And this film was inspired by probably the most influential serial killer of all time, Ed Gein.
Ed Gein. Yeah.
Even though technically speaking, he wasn't a serial killer because he only killed 2 people. That's an interesting bit of trivia.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I always thought
it's what he did with the bodies is kind of fucked up. But the 3 big ones he's inspired is this film, Psycho, and Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Pretty good trifecta of films.
Yeah. Each take that inspiration into their own journey.
And they are literally all-time great films. But so for me, that was the first thing I got was like, to me, torture porn. The first torture porn film I saw was Saw? No, Hostel.
Oh yeah.
I came away from it going, what the fuck is this? And realised, oh my god, this is what that film is. I mean, even that Aussie film that our mate Simon Chapman shot, the one with the graduation.
Oh yeah, Loved Ones.
Loved Ones. That has a lot of imagery.
Yeah.
To it, that's a homage to this. I mean, the other film that he did, Chappie did with that guy, the one in America,
Devil's Candy.
Devil's Candy. The staircase and the way that layout of the house is very similar to Leatherface's. You walk into Leatherface's house and there's a staircase and there's a room underneath the staircase. Like it's just composition-wise and the feel of it. So many films are borrowed from this film. That was striking to me. So it's my Godfather. I've not seen it. I know about it. I'll get around to seeing it someday. And today was the day I saw it.
Yeah, cool. I mean, it's good that this is kind of why I like bringing you into these things because I'm like the horror nut, and I like bringing somebody with a different eye, particularly somebody with a technical eye, which is where I like having these discussions with you because you come with the director's hat on most of the time, which is great to get that insight from somebody that not only loves movies but loves the way they're created. So. But with this particular film as well, it's. I was thinking about this on the drive over to your place. Is that it's not only was it the birth of slasher horror films comes from this, and we'll talk about the what becomes the cliches that's brought out of this when we start talking about the narrative. But for me, I was on the drive over. I was like, this was the birth of slasher horror films. John Carpenter came along and basically harnessed some of the aspects that were used within it, right? Yeah. Friday the 13th then gave them rules.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Then A Nightmare on Elm Street took those rules and twisted it into a really contemporary new telling of what a slasher horror film could take you. Yeah. Right? So you look at those 4 and they're still held quite highly as slasher films go. You look at Up Anything and they're the poster boys of...
So Leatherface had a mask and a chainsaw. Michael had a butcher's knife, and
he had a mask too.
Kirk mask.
Kirk mask. Yeah.
Friday the 13th was Jason with a hockey mask and
but interesting,
big cleaver. No, it was big, it was a
machete.
Machete knife. Yeah.
So, but the mask doesn't come until 3 for Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Because you've got the big whole Friday the 13th. It's in Scream where they kind of, the people trick them about who was the killer. And it was his mum, Pamela Voorhees.
Right.
And then in the second one, he wears a potato sack over his head. So most of the film, it's only until 3 comes along where the hockey mask is introduced, which is why, and then that's why it becomes such an iconic theme.
Right.
And then from there on in, it's the hockey mask. And then obviously, Freddy.
Yeah. So, no, he doesn't have a hockey mask, but a scarred face. And the clawy hands. So
I was thinking about it on the way over because that to me feels like what's happening. And like there's been pretenders to the throne all along that way ever since and in between. But those 4 are still...
Yeah, they are the dudes. And it's interesting that Chucky came out in the middle of all that, but Chucky doesn't have a weapon. He kills people different ways.
Yeah.
So does that work to his detriment or not? I'm just thinking...
I think Chucky's an interesting one because he's somebody that is easily banded alongside these guys. Yeah. But to me, he's different.
Genre.
Yeah, he is. He really is. So I know there are people out there that can't stand the Chucky films. I'm a fan. I like them. I like the whole tongue-in-cheek humour.
Yeah.
that's used throughout all of the Chucky films.
Yeah.
Even the crap ones, because there are. There always are. In
But it
franchises,
is a bit self-referential. It's very aware.
and I love that.
Yeah,
I do like that. It's very Deadpool at the moment. That
exactly.
whole kind of play.
With the superheroes. But I guess too. I didn't realise too. Slasher horror has been a dead genre for a little while now, compared to found footage became a thing for a short while, which you hated. Now you're getting more concept type horror with Bird Box and A Quiet Place. It remains to be seen if it does become a genre unto itself.
Yeah,
because they're the only two films that talk about, which I would say concept horror, have a sci-fi element to it, but it's based around the concept of can't see, can't hear.
Yeah,
I want to do a skit about a monster that farts or smells your fart, because that's a sense of smell.
Yeah.
But that seems like a haunted house. Stuff. H. It's all about the writing for that one. The suspense, not the gore, not the scares.
Yes.
Horror is in a really interesting, healthy place right now, but it's not. Yeah, you can't really knock it down.
It's interesting where they're pulling horror from, though, isn't it? That's the thing. We're starting to. There's no real identity to the horror. It's abstract.
It's a little bit, it's concept based. I think. It's a hint.
So like you look at, and we mentioned him in a previous podcast, but Jordan Peele's Get Out, for example, right?
And his new one,
Us,
has gotten everybody fucking excited.
Yeah, exactly, and it's that's
concept based. It's an idea. And what is the idea? I don't know. I can't wait to see. But like I said, because I guess before you could say zombies was really huge, and before the vampires were really huge, coming back. But I'd forgotten how much the slasher thing was so 80s.
And it was really Carpenter's Halloween that kickstarted. I know that was 78.
But this film's the one that
1974. And people can argue that there were other slashers. I mean, the same year Black Christmas came out, for example, which was
nowhere near as famous. Nowhere near as
exactly. It just and there were you've got to mention people like Mario Bava, the Italian Giallo film director, had stuff going on too, early on, prior to that, around the 60s. But it's, to me, this is the one that kind of kickstarted it all along the way. But let's have a little kind of chat around.
Let's dive right in.
The nuts and bolts, the plot of the piece, and we'll try and condense this as much as we can. But you've got to. And this is already the first iconic kind of or cliche that's been kind of riffed on ever since. We got 5 people in a combi van.
Actually, before that was the voiceover, John Larroquette's voiceover.
Oh, sorry, do mention that. You lead that one for a second.
There's a voiceover from John Larroquette from Night Court. Apparently did it for a spliff. I think he was joking, but never got paid. Apparently he has never seen it. And it doesn't sound like him at all. Like I had to go back and listen to it and go, oh right. But it's all about what you're about to see is a dramatization, and that's an interesting thing I want to bring up too. With the quality of the acting, because to me it was clear. I mean, it's a shoestring budget. I felt he was using locals to act, which in this case worked. Yeah, because they're so off center. It's just adding to the creepy factor and the unsettling factor. Yeah. And so I'm thinking this feels like a found footage film. But he's using film, like 16mm film, I suppose. Yeah. But I
really love the sound effects at the beginning of this too.
The sound design's great. The sound design's really good. And that's the other thing. It goes into, he talks at this little prologue about what you're about to see is a true story that happened to a sister and a handicapped brother, and it's known as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Complete bullshit. It wasn't a real life incident. Some of the elements of what Leatherface does is taken from Ed Gein, but the whole narrative is fictional. Yeah. But it added. I mean, again, it's marketing. Internet marketing before internet marketing became a thing. It's just it throws out the question of people going, "Oh my god, is it real? I don't know." But he talks about that. Then it goes into this shots of close-ups of. Oh, maybe that happened first, and then there came the voiceover. Yeah. But it's close-up of body parts. Yeah. And this amazing sound of a Polaroid camera going. Yeah. And I didn't know that they had used that sound for the remake in 2007-3 with Jessica Biel. because it's such a good sound.
Yes.
It's such a good sound. And it's really nice close-ups of decomposing bodies. They look like special effects and wax dummies, but they look really good still.
Yeah.
And you hear the flash, you see a flash of a body, it goes to black, and flash, body goes back. Then they're talking of some radio reports about grave robbing.
Yes, that's right.
Which apparently what inspired him was a lot of the news reports in Texas at that time were really, really graphic.
They were, that's right. And it was actually pulled from a news article.
Yeah, so that's nuts. Then you get this extreme close-up of two bodies taken from I assume robbed from a grave that was stuck on a headstone, crucifix, and a gravesite.
Yeah.
And you pull out some close-up to a wide shot. That's disturbing because it looks pretty good for 1974, very visceral. And then you get into the kids in a comedy van, and you know automatically that there's at least a boy and a girl, and her brother and sister, the brother's handicapped. The van pulls up. This guy gets out, Kirk, opens up the side door, pulls out these two ramps, wheels down the handicapped brother. Yeah. So he can pee in a can.
Yeah.
And then this semi-trailer drives by, which blows a lot of wind, and it blows the brother down the hill. Yeah. He rolls out of the chair. His fly's done up. I looked. Because that thing is logistically, he was still peeing, so of course he's got to be... It's like people when they have sex in TV shows and they still get out of bed and they've got pants on. Yeah. He does that. Anyway, so that's the main thing. And then then you realise Kirk is the boyfriend of a girl who's not the lead girl. Yes. The lead girl is Sally. And she's the sister of the handicapped brother. And there's a fifth guy who's got glasses who drives the van. Yeah, that's Jerry. So just to recap. So she's our heroine. She's our original screen queen. Yes, she's a very good screen queen. And her paraplegic brother Franklin. Mm-hmm. And then we have Jerry, Kirk, and Pam. Yes. To round out the other three. So there's five of them. And then a comedy van, and they're there to investigate because one of the news reports at the beginning of the movie talks about grave robbing. Yep. And they want to investigate that their grandfather's gravesite has not been robbed. Yeah, that's right. That's kind of because they're on this road trip, and that's part of what they're originally going to be doing. And so they also want to see the old family. There's like an old family home. Yes. And that's kind of along the way to where they're heading to as well. And just before we get into the nuts and bolts of that, I do want to talk about. I'll just make a quick because we mentioned him with the art director behind it. He's actually Robert A. Burns. And he was behind the art direction for Reanimator, The Hills Have Eyes, The Howling. And very good. To name just a few. And there's a bit of a... when I'm watching the extras, it feels like there's a bit of bitterness coming from him. Really? Because it feels like I think his visual style in this is so effective in this. Mm. And he was the one that decorated the set. He was going out places, getting stuff and bringing it in, and and that final kill room, where there's bones and shit everywhere, right? He just was going around collecting all this stuff and kind of bringing it back and just adding more and more stuff to the, and a lot of it, that real kind of feeling really bleeds across into the screen. Yeah. It looks fucked up and. Well. And real, do you know what I mean? So I did think at some point, it's a 70s film. It's effectively a student film for me. Yeah, they did it on the short budget. Yeah, they were shooting 7 days a week, 16-hour days because the equipment they had was a big expense, and they were trying to churn through an awful lot. So straight over that him in the story, you could tell. I bet you they're tired. Yeah, I bet you they're exhausted. And when you're tired and exhausted in a horror film, you can get scared if you're an actor. Yes. Particularly back then, as you since find out, there's not a lot of occupational health and safety on set. But I did think, okay, you know what? This film is visceral as fuck. Yes. There's a lot. The art design and the set direction is brilliant. Yeah. And I did go, good on you, Toby, but apparently it's not necessarily him. But again, that's a really good example of how a great film. But is it not? Is it just him being very clever about using the people around him, though? Yeah. Again, you can do the whole thing of it's the thing of just to go off another tangent. A friend of my old boss won a Cannes Lion promo.
Yeah.
So in the world of promos, 30-second commercials for other shows, a cans line is the shit.
Yeah.
You can get a Promax, that's great. International Promax, I have an International Promax, that's fine. You get a cans line, that's the shit.
Yeah.
And this guy got a cans line for a 30-second promo, which had a hedgehog going, Steve, Steve, Steve. Oh, it's not Steve. Alan, Alan. You know the promo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a cans line for that promo. He cut 30 seconds out of a show. That's the promo, right? And even he's embarrassed by the fact that he got the highest accolade you can get for basically doing no work whatsoever. But his justification was, I was smart enough to realise that that's all I needed to sell the show.
Yeah.
So again, is it like, well, your art director did that, Tobe Hooper. Well, I was smart enough to hire him. What do you bring to the table?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's all that. But at the same time, it is a film is coincidence. A film is lightning in a bottle.
Exactly, and this does this, and just to touch base on, and I know we're doing the usual where we're kind of deviating massively away from the plot line, but these are all important to kind of sow the seeds of what it is we're watching.
Yeah,
because just to touch on the safety factor, because it was low budget, they were cutting corners, and there's some stuff in there where they were pretty kind of close to the wire of what they were shooting. So like. Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface, is actually using a real
fucking chainsaw.
Real chainsaw, right?
And he's missing one scene. He's missing the dude by a foot.
It's 3 inches from Vale's face.
Yeah, so
it's like the equivalent of 8 centimeters.
He's got a fucking mask on, so his peripheral vision.
I can't see a thing.
Yeah,
and obviously at the end where he's wailing the thing around as well. He was really worried he's going to cut his own leg off. Or something,
I think the cameraman must be going, "Fucking hell."
Rolling.
Rolling. And all sorts of examples. The lead actress, what's her name? Sally, the one who plays Sally.
Marilyn Burns.
For like what feels like 2 hours, runs through bushes. And in the dark, and there's all the scratches. A lot of the scratches.
Yeah, that's right.
Is 100%.
And so like, and again, I know we're jumping around, right? But speaking of her too, like, so they shot everything, and there's, she's caked in blood and everything at the end. Do I say I'm going to wait till later? I'm going to wait till later to discuss that because I think it's kind of funny.
Yes,
it wasn't funny for her, but. So look. So there's a lot of that's what I mean about. There's like a lot of this kind of guerrilla style kind of approach to this. Like it would have been like literally, all right, what can we shoot today?
Yeah.
And what can we do? There's no kind of storyboarding at all, from what I can tell, even from when they're talking about it. It is like, this is the story. There's a script, so they're at least got something to stick to. But as far as how that script is going to be produced and put together as a film,
and the scenes, some scenes are constructed they're constructed. I don't know. It seems more noticeable when you have an edit on film, than it does on digital video. But it's constructed. Like, he's obviously keeping a scene in his head, and he's choosing to go wide for certain reasons.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got a vision in mind and stuff. Yeah. So he kind of knows what he wants to do. It's just, I guess it's the nitty gritty kind of stuff that's not as finessed as one experienced filmmaker would be able to kind of come in.
But Peter Jackson did it for his first film, which is the animator, was it called? I don't know what it is. But
the what?
The first film he ever did. But I was told he shot on weekends, and he was pulling in favours in for mates. It was a horror film.
Yeah, I can't remember his first one now. But I love Brain Dead. Brain Dead to me is his
that's
best
the puppet
ever
one, isn't it? Yeah.
No, Meet the Feebles is the puppet one.
It might be Brain Dead I'm talking about.
But Brain Dead is like, and he's redoing. He's apparently said he's going to remaster them all these early stuff. Too. Yeah. And, but if you haven't seen Brain Dead, it's up there as one of my all-time favorite films. One for the use of the word rat bastard. And the other for the climax, like the lawnmower scene. For people who know what I'm talking about, it's just balls to all funny and bloody, and it's great. So coming back to Texas Chainsaw, so pissing in the wind moment. Car flies by. Yeah. So listeners out there, if you're keeping up, we're talking about Franklin, the paraplegic guy who's in the wheelchair, gets kind of blown by the wind of a car going past, goes down the hill, apparently with his cock still hidden away.
Yep.
Anyway, but they get back on the road again. We already get the sense that Franklin, he's an interesting character.
Well, his betrayal annoyed you.
He annoys me to no end. And he annoyed the cast too.
Oh, did he?
And
he was method.
He was very method.
Yeah.
And so he felt that isolation where in the filming of this too, and like. And he is an isolated character.
Yeah,
like
so
the characters
they tolerate
him, but they like there's points where he's just left alone and he's chatting away to himself.
He struck me as the classic filmmaker hiring his best mate because he thinks his best mate's funny. And there's films that have been guilty of that you and I have seen.
Yes,
and they're not.
Yes,
but I assume I don't know. I assume he was actually hired for the role because the role was written specifically for the best actor.
Yeah. I don't know how he came involved with the film, but like he's not really done much outside of this film, really.
Yeah. Right.
Like he was given a bit part in a later installment of the franchise, Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, aka the one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, and we will talk about that one down the track too. And he was also in another awesome film, actually. I love. This is one of my favourite films as well, Race with the Devil, which was a film with Peter Fonda. Sorry, I was trying to remember his name. Peter Fonda, and it's a cult kind of. It's an occult film. Yeah. But like an on the road occult film. It's good. I love it. Because it's a bit of an action kind of car chasey kind of movie.
Oh, okay.
Right. So he was in that too, and he actually crops up uncredited, but he was in The Life of David Gale, which was the Kevin Spacey, Kate Winslet movie.
Oh, okay.
It's really good. Recommend watching it. As well. So, but he's not really. Yeah, he hasn't really done much anyway. But like, here's the thing: like, he's going to be always known for this role. His name's Paul. I haven't mentioned his name. His name's Paul Partain. Paul A. Partain. And he's since passed away. Actually, good.
Quite
a few years ago now.
Have, actually.
He had cancer, unfortunately, and had passed away. But he's known for this film, and he owns the role within it. And he was method in his approach, and I think his approach actually. He's annoying, but I think he needs to be annoying. That's the thing, right?
Well, his character is very demanding. And he acts that way, and that's the role he's taken because he is physical. He is I don't want to say physical. How to put this? He's very selfish as a personality.
Yes, he is.
And acts entitled.
And he does use his disability to that effect as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
which I mean, fine.
Yes.
But it comes across sometimes as overacting.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
A little bit. But the thing I found that interesting for him is like not knowing anything about the film. Is he going to identify more with? I knew the bad guys in the film were a dysfunctional family to the extreme. Was Tobe Hooper making a statement about all families are? Because he was. Because he has a penknife that he plays with, and he stabs it in the side of the car when he's not thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it was like, oh, okay. Is he? Because I probably thought, is he one of the becomes?
Yeah,
one of
he's
these
really
characters?
quite fascinated with this penknife at the beginning too, isn't he? And that comes into effect which we'll come into soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is this kind of unhinged kind of aspect.
Unhinged element to him, which I'm thinking, does he become one? Does he identify more with the bad guy?
Yeah,
does he become the bad guy? I don't know. Is that where Tobe Hooper was going with this guy?
Sure.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But
I like that. That's a good kind of comment. I think that's a really, I think that's a really cool insight. It's kind of a bit left to centre, but it's a good way of looking at his character, I think. And is it borderline between sanity and insanity? In that respect,
Well, I would imagine somebody like him would appreciate the freedom of... Because all his life is constrained.
Yeah.
By the wheelchair, by social norms.
Yeah.
He's limited in what he can do because he's at the whims of his sister and boyfriend. Would he find freedom in what this cannibal family does?
There is a little of, I feel now in hindsight, there's a bit of autistic traits going on with him too.
Yeah.
Like he has very set ways with things, and his factual obsessions as well that he carries around with him.
Yeah.
Which I know a lot is a trait of autistic people. They do they do pick on certain subjects, and then they bury themselves in that subject, and want to know everything about it, and become experts. Within that field.
Yeah, because it's all about the bolts and how to kill cows. And
exactly.
Like that.
So there is things like that, and that comes up with the abattoir stuff that we were talking to, and that's where I'm going with that. But anyway, so to come back to the story, so they all kind of pile back into the combi van, and along the way they pick up this hitchhiker.
Now the shot is a massive wide shot. Combi van goes left to right, and the hitchhiker jumps in the van. It's a really nicely composed shot, and it just shows straight away that he's actually put some thought into this.
Yeah.
Because there's many different ways you could have covered it, but it's an interesting and arresting visual. As I pick up this hitchhiker, he's a bit extreme.
Bit extreme. There's method, and then there's method. So the hitchhiker is played by Edwin Neal. He's huge on the circuits, festival circuits. He's pretty much always going to be at the big ones, and rightly so because, rightly so because people will actually. His role is so iconic in this.
Yeah.
He owns the role within it too.
And these days he looks like Roger Waters from Pink Floyd.
Does it?
Yeah.
So he's it really is an interesting character within this, and if you watch him in the any of the documentaries and stuff, he's a character in his own right too.
Right.
He's quite eccentric and he brings that energy to the role of the hitchhiker.
Yeah.
And this is something that, again, where I'm guessing, but because of my observation of Hooper's work, he's quite happy to let the reins run quite free with the actors as well as creators.
Well, this is all Blair Witch stuff. Again, Blair Witch came after this film.
Yeah.
But the filmmakers, there's a lot of improv energy about this.
Yeah.
And it's more like, if I can terrify the actors in real life, that's going to come across the screen. And this guy's really fucking unsettling.
Yeah.
So he does things like show photos of animals he's killed in the abattoir.
Yes.
He has a squirrel pouch around his neck. He grabs the Paul's, or the brothers, Franklin's knife off him.
Yeah.
Franklin lets him grab the knife.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he cuts himself.
Yeah.
And they freak out. They don't freak out as much as they probably should freak out.
No.
Because this guy's cutting himself, and like he's probably one hysterical laugh away from just slashing people with it.
Yeah, that's
But they ask for the knife back, and he gives it back, and then he pulls out his own knife, which is a razor blade.
Yes.
Barber's razor blade, and then he does all sorts of weird things. He takes a photo.
He takes a Polaroid camera picture, of Franklin, and then he asks for money for the photo he's taken. And they refuse to pay for it, and he ends up burning the photo, which obviously that's when they panic more at that because there's a fire within the vehicle.
Yeah.
And then then he takes a slash. Does he actually cut Franklin's arm?
He does. He decides to cut Franklin's arm during the chaos.
Yeah.
Franklin screams like a little bitch.
Yeah.
The other thing too is that when he first shows the photos of the animals he's killed in the abattoir, you see a cutaway of those animals, which is again, you needed it for the coverage, but it's film, so it's quite not an expensive thing to do, but it's sometimes really low budget stuff won't show it.
Yeah.
They just have the actor describe the photo.
Yeah.
But you see it. But when he takes a photo of Franklin, they don't get a cutaway of it. Franklin just says it's a bad photo.
Yeah.
So I found that interesting.
Yes.
Whether it was a deliberate choice or they ran out of time.
It's true. I'd forgotten that.
But anyway, it's just a little thing.
Yeah.
But because he cuts Franklin's arm, and they throw him out of the van.
They kick him out. Yeah.
And then because he's cut himself, he bleeds. He leaves a mark on the van.
Yeah.
As he tells them, he goes all crazy, and they drive off very slowly.
Yeah.
As this guy's okay. This is the 70s too, where hitchhiking was very prevalent.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It was the done thing.
Kind of a more socially accepted thing.
Yes, socially accepted is probably
so that's that guy.
Yeah, and the blood on the side of the van is a mark.
Makes a symbol. It looks like it could be random shit to me, but the Franklin gives obsessed that it's a symbol.
Yeah.
And now because they're marked, he's following us. Or that's kind of Franklin supposes. Theorizes that they're following. I don't know how he's following you. It's not like he left his phone in your car.
No, that's right.
So
they do stop at this gas station to fill up their car.
Again, Cabin in the Woods has a gas station where they feel. I had no. I knew it was kind of a trope, but I didn't know this is the film.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Right, if Surgeons of Horror get beyond the podcast and the Facebook stuff, and we actually kind of are able to present classic horror films on screen somewhere, I would want to screen this at a gas station.
Oh, nice.
That's where I'd want to place it.
Nice.
And I just think that would. The location is key, though. You've got to find the right spot.
Yeah, because the BP in Victoria Road in Rothermere got really pissed off if you turn up.
Yeah. For what?
Yeah.
There are 200 people sitting around watching a movie on the side of their petrol station. But I'd love to do that. That would be like one of my ultimate kind of things to do. So, yeah, keep listening, keep following us. Get the support going, because these are the kind of things I want to get going, especially in Australia, where we're based.
And don't hijack our Facebook page like has happened to other people we know.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I don't think it was Jesus.
Yeah.
So they pull up the gas station, fill up the car, but the pumps are empty. Or the guy tells them they're empty.
Because the oil crisis was happening at the time. Yeah,
that's right. Big thing at the time.
That was a deal, yeah. Which is why you can now turn right on red in America after a certain time.
Ah, right. I didn't know that. Oh,
yes.
Cool. So they decide to push on to the family home, the old family home, on what fuel they have, and hopefully come back to the gas station to refill up later on. When they get there, Franklin is telling Kirk and Pam, so they're the token couple characters in it. He's saying that there is like a swimming creek kind of.
Is a creek nearby? Yes.
Yeah. And waterhole. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And so he said it's somewhere around there. It points them roughly in the direction. So they kind of go in that direction. When they do, though, and they're very hippie kind of couple, aren't they? They're very kind of
This is the hippie era starting to come into the 70s era.
Yeah. And they kind of stumble across this house, and then so Kirk's kind of calling out. He's basically trying to see if they've got gas. We thought, oh well, maybe they've got gas, and there's like a windmill going as well.
They've got a motor
going. So it's like they must have a generator. That's it. Yeah. And it's like they must have gas because they've got this thing going out. So let's see if we can get some. And so he's kind of knocking on the door, trying to find out if they've got some. That finds the doors unlocked, and then Pam. Is waiting outside
on a swing.
And I'll get to that moment just because I want to just mention that Kirk is played by William Vale, and Pam is played by Terry McNeil.
Right.
Just to kind of give them their names. And Terry. Okay, so Kirk is kind of knocking on the outside. He's trying to find the door open, and Pam sits down on the swing. And there is a bit of a shot.
It's a very famous shot, apparently.
Yeah.
I didn't know about this until I saw the DVD stuff. I mean, I did notice that there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
I've seen so far. There was first Pam and the other girl went at the petrol station.
Sally.
And Sally, and they're around a Coke machine, and Toby's using a tracking shot looking up at their butts.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's gratuitous. I mean, I was like, oh, tracking shot in the 70s film. Yeah, cool. Because
that's something that's that's why the shot we were about to talk about is famous.
Yeah.
Because it's the tracking
shot. Tracks underneath, yeah.
Yeah.
Because apparently the DOP and his story is kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's Daniel Pearl.
Yeah. He DOP'd the remake.
He did?
Yes. Because apparently he said for years he didn't want, because he became a dad and his child was a girl, and he said for years, if I was in the 90s, if he was pitched Jessica Chainsaw Massacre now, he said, I would never do it because I'm a father now, responsible. And then early 2000s, this guy says, hey, you want the DOP, the remake? He said, yeah, I'll do that. But apparently he realised that if he used the chocks and those anamorphic lenses and 16:9, he could actually get the camera underneath the swing.
Yeah.
As she gets off the swing to go investigate what happens to Kirk.
Yeah.
And it's quite. And he said, if you do that and she walks, we walk with her, then the house fills up the frame, and the house effectively swallows the shot, and it works. It is a cinematic shot.
It's a great shot.
You are captivated by her butt.
Yeah.
And then you actually look at it a second time, you're like, oh yeah, it's quite a good shot.
Yeah.
But then notoriously, apparently, he just pitched it on the day to Tobe Hooper. Said, yes, that's what we're doing. And
That's exactly it. That's exactly how it came out. It came out on the day of, and they went. And that's again, it goes to what Tobe Hooper will go. He's a director that will listen, and he will bend and bow according to what's happening around him.
And by experience, crew people will give you 110% if they feel to listen to it.
Yeah. So to his credit, he was able to allow that to happen. I mean, Terry McMinn's kind of come out joking around her ass and the shot, not knowing that that's what they were doing, and thinking it was a bit odd the way
she thought it was a bit exploitative.
Yeah.
Until she saw it in the cinema, and she went, "Oh wow."
Yeah.
But the other thing too, though, they fought against it too. The producers or somebody said that's not the shot list.
That's right.
Like, screw you, we're doing this.
Yeah.
So it's a great shot. She follows because Kurt's been. Have we talked about Kurt being?
No. Because I just wanted to also just keep on this guy, the cinematographer dude too. Cause I'm just looking at his resume, and he's done a lot of music videos.
Yeah, he's a big music video.
Music videos left, right, and centre. And I'm just kind of scrolling back up to the top of the list there too, because I just saw there that he did the cinematography for The Boy.
Oh.
He was the DOP. Sorry for that.
All right. Same deal.
Yeah. So.
Which I enjoyed. I like that.
Yeah, and he also did it for Mom and Dad, the Nick Cage and Selma Blair movie.
Oh,
which I just don't think we've checked out yet.
I haven't seen it yet,
but I recommend watching it because it's good.
Yeah, cool.
And so that just struck my eye. I was like, oh, he did that too.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So yeah. So back to the story. So we've got her on the outside, and we've got Kirk, who then kind of finds the door open, so he kind of he walks inside, and he's kind of calling out to people, hoping there's someone. It seems a bit desolated, and then all of a sudden, this is again another famous shot as well, where all of a sudden this kind of door flies open, and Leatherface is standing there, clocks the guy over the head with a hammer, and then pulls him back in. Slams the door shut again. He kind of
he opened it early, Leatherface. He kind of Kirk had to stumble towards him a little bit.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, kill me now. You fucked it up, but I'll walk to you. And he gets knocked down.
Yeah.
And his body does the spasming thing, which is always quite harrowing.
Yes.
And there's blood on his face as Leatherface is just smashing a hammer down on his head, drags his body, and then violently slams the door shut again.
Yeah.
And I found that of the entire scene the most in your face because he
door
really
shut.
smashes that door.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and Gunnar Hansen, he will always be is epitomised the right word?
Associated
with the role of Leatherface.
He was being a method too.
Yeah, he was.
He researched a lot into who he is.
Yeah, and he's a big set guy as well.
Yeah,
whether it was a case of when you accidentally shut a door a bit too hard.
Might be, yeah.
I'm wondering if it
might be like, I didn't mean to do that, sorry. Just start close.
Sorry. It was great.
But the way he also kills him is supposed to be how because they're talking about how they kill cows with a sledgehammer.
Yes.
Earlier in the abattoir. And
that's right.
And then they, at that point in the 70s, they just developed the technology of a bolt gun. Which they use in It. Yes. And Harvey Bier uses in that film.
No Country for Old Men.
Yes,
I knew what you meant, man.
Yeah, I did the similar thing. Yeah. But they're talking about earlier. Franklin's talking about that's how they kill cows. And the conversation he has with the hitchhiker, who we find out is actually the brother of Leatherface later on.
Yeah.
Is that the hitchhiker says that it's better to kill with a sledgehammer.
Yes.
And he's saying, because it's the way it's done, and it's a better method, and it's more tried and true. And he's also taking jobs away from people when you don't use the sledgehammer. Yeah. So it's more like a mallet, but. Swings it like a freaking table tennis bat.
He does.
And you do get the sense of, obviously he's missing Kirk's head in real life, but you get the sense that he's really, the character's really caving that guy's head in.
Yeah, and this is the first image we get to see of Leatherface.
Well, I can imagine that it's very shocking for the viewers who don't know the cultural power that Leatherface has 40 years on. At the time when you see it for the first time, it'd be very, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Boom. And so that's the first victim.
Yeah. So Pam's outside, and she kind of, does come inside because obviously
she wants to know where Kirk is.
Where's Kirk gone? And she then trips into. This is the room I was telling you about, with the room that's just littered with bones.
Yeah.
And she kind of falls into it, tries to flee, to get out. But Leatherface turns up again. He catches her and he basically impales her on a meat hook.
Yeah, so this whole thing, she's in this room, she trips in it, and she looks at everything. Cutaways to all the bits and pieces of the room, the amazing art direction. It feels like it goes for 5 minutes. And then she finally gets up and screams. Well, she screams and then leaves. Again, it feels like she's been in the room for 5 minutes. Yeah. If it's that disturbing, which it is, get out.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She gets caught by Leatherface, who dwarfs her like a freaking...
Oh man,
Yeah,
like he literally does treat it like a piece of meat. Like he's not. I'm not talking about the objectional.
Sexual way.
Sexual way.
He literally hangs on a hook.
Yeah,
which again is a very iconic scene. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Again, the first time I did see Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it was a remake with Jessica Biel.
Yes.
2003.
Could be two.
And that was a good film. It was really on edge. It's quite horrific.
Yeah.
The first thing you see is a hitchhiker in that film was a girl who was a victim of the family.
Yes.
So that was a twist on that. I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
Because she gets into the van and she pulls out a gun between her legs and kills herself.
Yes.
She won't go back to the house.
That's right.
Which is a nicely written bit. The second one is that Leatherface hangs the boyfriend on the hook.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't realise it was a girl.
Yeah.
I was vaguely aware it was a girl for this version, but
gender switch.
Yeah.
Gender switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely right. And so, but he, Leatherface actually then kind of butchers Kirk.
He pulls out a chainsaw.
Yeah.
And he cuts off Kirk's head. And again, the really interesting thing about this, he forces her to watch all horrific shit. And there's a lot more horrific shit to come on later.
Yeah.
But Hooper, the whole time, was trying to cut down on the gore because he wanted a PG rating. How high was he thinking that he was going to get a PG rating? There's no gore. Yeah. Did you see everything else you've been doing? Because that's kind of fucking horrific, bro. Because there's not a lot of... Even when he's cutting Kurt to pieces, there's no blood going anywhere.
Yeah.
But the way you shot it is that he's cutting this guy's head off from behind the table, and there's a girl that you hung up on a hook seeing the whole thing happen. Yeah. Nah, that's not going to get a PG rating. PG-13, fine.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Because that's the average Disney film we watch in there. But, so that's how he gets rid of victim number 2.
That's victim number 1, still.
Well, she's not going to last long.
No, I get what you're saying. Sorry. Yeah. So at which point? So we've got 3 survivors left. Jerry's the next guy, I guess, and he goes out to look. He does the same thing. He's like, oh, they've been a while. I better go find out.
I'll go by myself.
Yeah. And so he goes out looking for Pam and Kirk. Sun's setting at this point too. He sees the house that they stumble across, and he finds Pam, who's still alive, in the freezer.
This is weird. Something makes him look in the freezer, and I think he hears a noise.
Yeah.
So he opens it, but Pam's frozen and dead. So she's like tapped on the thing and then pretended to be dead.
Yes.
Then she comes alive again.
Yeah.
It scares the shit out of him.
Yeah.
That's when Leatherface comes in, hits him over the head, I think.
I can't remember. I know he kills him.
Kills him, and then throws the girl back in the freezer.
Back in the freezer again. Yeah.
Boom.
So dead.
Kaboom. Boom. So 3 down.
So Jerry, by the way, I should just mention as well, was played by Alan Danziger. And he was actually in Eggshells, the movie I was telling you about, the first ever film. So just to mention him by name, since he's dead now. I mean, not alive. Oh my god! Since the character's dead now. Okay, so leaves basically the sister and Franklin left
in the car, and they're having They have a fight.
They have a huge fight.
It's dark.
Yeah. It's nighttime now.
Nighttime, they're having a fight. At one point, Franklin freaks out because they took the car keys with him. So
he has this whole thing.
And hits a horn and takes a forever to stop him from hitting the horn.
Yeah.
And he insists on going with her because she's going to go and find out. And he doesn't want to be left behind.
That's right. He doesn't want to be... I'm always being left behind.
Yeah. So she pushes him through the forest that you can't see.
Yeah.
Or he's got a flashlight or something.
That's right. They have a bit of a flashlight, but I pretty much can't see too much. And they're kind of calling out to the other guys. And then Leatherface comes out of nowhere again, and he basically kills Franklin with the chainsaw.
Yeah. So the way this is shot is from below Franklin and from behind. You see Leatherface stabbing him effectively with the chainsaw. We don't see any penetration, and you don't really see any blood. No. So again, I can see people going, "That would be perfect. That's PG. There's no guts and What? It's pretty horrific because the whole time the sister's watching it and screaming her lungs out. She runs.
And
then it feels like 3 minutes.
Yeah, goes through the night through the corn. Is it a cornfield or?
It's far. It's like it's branches of trees.
Yeah.
What do you call it? It's like
Foliage.
foliage. Yeah, like
Like-
really. Yeah, like but hard core like thorns and bushes and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's swinging the chainsaw like a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's because he could outrun her and he had to do stuff to get her to let her get ahead.
That's it. Give you a head start.
Yeah.
I'll swing this around for a bit. So she eventually gets to the house, and that's where. Is that right?
But doesn't she run to the petrol station?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. She gets to the house first,
Is that when she finds out what's happened?
and she finds the remains of this kind of old couple upstairs.
Right.
Like this
yeah.
kind of,
Yeah, so yeah.
you know. And then she manages to get out by jumping through the window.
She throws herself through the window.
Yeah.
Like, really? That comes a little bit like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And that's how she escapes. And that's when she then goes to the gas station.
Yeah.
So Leatherface is chasing her towards the petrol station, and she runs in. She finds the petrol station owner, runs in through the door, slams the door. Leatherface disappears, in effect, because he's behind her. He's only like a few steps behind her. The chainsaw's whirring like crazy. As soon as she goes in the door, you don't hear him anymore. That's a weird thing. Because in the actual, if it was real life, he would have, even if he known that we do know later on that the gas station owner is his dad or is a relative of his, Leatherface would have kept on running, so he would have heard the chainsaw go.
Yes.
But he sort of comforts her, sticks his head out the door. There's nobody there, and then he kind of says to her, "Stay here. I want to go for help." He leaves, and she sits there, and then Hooper does this really interesting thing where she looks around this room that she's in, and there's meat, all kinds of weird meat being cooked over an open oven. And there's
that's
sausages,
right. Yeah.
but some bits don't look like sausage, and they're kind of weird.
Yeah.
And straight away it sets you on edge, and sets her on edge, and then he comes back in and basically wants to tie her up. By saying relax. So straight away the gig is up. He's a bad guy. She pulls a knife, which he then knocks out of her hand with a broom, one-handed. So that's kind of weak.
That's right.
And then it gets kind of this other territory where he ties her up, and it kind of from here on in gets a little torture porn, which. As you and I have noticed, you and I have said several times on this podcast, a little uncomfortable territory for you and I.
Yeah.
We're not big fans of torture porn anyway. And also when it involves women, and she pretty much goes into a screaming fest from here on in for the rest of the film, almost. Which is a bit, imagery-wise, is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yes.
But basically, as revealed, he's a bad guy, ties her up, puts her in his car, ute, to take her back to the house.
That's right.
Stops to go back inside to turn off all the lights, because electricity could cost him a fortune, which was true at that point, because America was going through an energy crisis.
That's right.
And so he drives back to the house where he runs into the hitchhiker.
Yes.
Who's walking back to the house. So he straight away, he gets out and he starts berating the hitchhiker, starts beating him up. He kind of realizes there's a relationship between them. They know each other. He's angry at the hitchhiker because what the hitchhiker did to the kids earlier could have exposed their family, because the kids could have gone to the authorities.
Yeah.
So he's angry. And then by the way, tells his kid, who's basically his son, oh, there's somebody in the car, which is the girl, is the victim, but she's tied up in an knapsack or something. The guy can't quite see her face yet. They drag her into the house, and it kicks off. So Leatherface is in there. Leatherface has a different face on at this point. He has the face of a woman.
Yeah. So I was going to say this too, because this is where there's been a lot of commentary around this, and looking at the Texas Chainsaw family dynamic. Thank you. And because of Leatherface's appearance at this point, because he's dressed like a woman, he's serving dinner at this point too.
Yes.
Most of the time we see him in the kitchen dismembering,
preparing food.
Preparing the food. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which I know is very is a bit of an old kind of look at the family 2.4 children kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
But so in this instance, because of the representation of Leatherface, there's been a lot of comments about he's like the matriarchal kind of figure within this family.
So they're actually serving human body parts and eating them at dinner, were they? Because that's not 100% clear, I thought.
No, I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing, because there's the stuff they're eating is all a bit it's again that sus kind of like that was in the petrol station, and doesn't look quite right. So yeah.
And at one point, they bring grandfather down. So one of the figures that you kind of saw earlier is their granddad, who to me looked like an alien. Because he's supposed to be this decrepit old man, but he's wearing a really rubbery mask. So it's like, again, budget constraints.
Yes.
But it kind of worked in the really what the fuck is going on favour. And at one point they cut her finger, which I think they cut it in real life.
Yeah. I think I will see that too.
And then she stick her finger in his mouth, and he sucks the blood.
That's
that
right.
Sort of brings him to life.
It rejuvenates Grandpa. The guy that played him as well was a young guy at the time. He was a guy called John Dugan. He would appear again in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation and Texas Chainsaw 3D as Grandpa Sawyer. But the point was more that he was a young guy and this kind of heavily made up to look like a grandpa in it.
Like a vampire.
And the other thing, just to cut back to the story about the food as well that they're eating. So there's a point where they're eating a sausage in it, and I remember I was seeing again in the extras that the Hitchhiker guy Edwin Neal was talking about, saying that was the same sausage they were eating.
Oh, really?
And it was cold and really and
Apparently it's foul. It was a foul because the whole thing that's notorious about the making of this is they work 16 hour days, they work 7 days a week because the equipment was quite expensive. 16mm film stuff, and it's because it's 16mm film. They needed a lot of lights to blast into the room. Apparently it was 40-degree days, which is 100-degree days in Fahrenheit, and that room was just stuffy. A lot of the props they couldn't dress down the set, like I think you mentioned. That, and then and some of there's real food and
there's
roadkill.
Exactly. Yeah, they would find roadkill all over the place. There's a famous shot of an armadillo.
Yes.
In a lot of the artwork and stuff. And originally they had a dog, I think, a dead dog.
Right.
And it just didn't jar well. So and then the production designer found this armadillo, and that's what they used.
It looked like an opportune shot. They found that'd be cool as a plate, and they shot it, and that's what happened.
Yeah, pretty much.
But apparently it was really rough to film because the Leatherface had to wear the same shirt. He kept the same mask, and she was in the same shirt.
Yeah, and caked in the same blood. So by the time of it was layers and layers of this kind of blood, and so it'd gone hard and kind of crispy, and she had to wear that shit.
and the famous quote for me from the guy who played the Hitchhiker, who looks a lot like Roger Waters today. From Pink Floyd, just saw that. But he looks a lot like him. But apparently he's quoted as saying that was the most roughest day of his life.
Yeah,
and he served in Vietnam.
That's right.
And he actually said, "I had people actively trying to kill me, but it doesn't compare to this." That's how rough it was.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we have Grandpa kind of brought in, and he's rejuvenated by sucking on the finger of Sally. They decide to try and kill her, and they decide that Grandpa's the best person to do it because he was the best killer in the old slaughterhouse.
He could hit somebody with a hammer.
Yeah. Although he's too weak to do it in this instance.
So the Hitchhiker holds her down from behind. They put her head over like a bobbing apple trough basket thing.
Yes.
And they're trying to get Granddad to hit her over the head by placing this hammer in Granddad's hand.
Yeah.
And he keeps dropping it. And in one of the takes, in a wide shot, he drops it, but he throws it half drops and half throws it, and the hammer just misses or glances off his shoulder. And you can tell it's a real hammer. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that goes back to what we were saying again. That there was a lot of this kind of guerrilla kind of style approach to the filmmaking, but in order to do that, there was some damn near misses. That occurred within this. And that was one of them.
Yeah. And she's screaming throughout all this as well.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So that's all happening, but there's a point where Hitchhiker is getting a bit kind of impatient, and he's got the bloodlust going on, and he wants to try and do it himself. But in order to do so, as he's doing that, Sally kind of chooses a moment. She chooses a moment to kind of escape because he's.
And at this point, I thought she was going to kick ass.
Yes.
And so I thought she was going to do something hokey. Well, it was do something hokey where.
Well, if it was a modern movie,
or was something hokey where the Leatherface swings a hammer and she swings Hitchhiker's face in the way or some bullshit like that.
Yeah.
So she runs through a window
again. Yeah.
And this time you can really tell it's a stunt double because this woman has a really bad blonde wig as she flies through the window. She lands, boom. And I didn't realise before she jumped out of a 2-story window last time.
Yes, that's right.
And you thought she busted her ankle, which she kind of did for half a second.
Yeah,
she
that's
runs
right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, she's learning. She's jumped out the bottom of the floor this time. So.
Yeah. So she's getting better at it.
She's getting better.
And now it's daylight.
Yeah, the sun is rising. That's right. And she's kind of out, kind of trying to escape. She's got both Leatherface and the hitchhiker guy kind of chasing after her. And then a hitchhiker guy then suddenly gets hit by a passing truck.
Plowed by a truck. He didn't look up. And the way they shot that, I thought the shot was over the original shot was over the shoulder of the driver hitting him, which I thought looked a bit slow.
Yes.
But then it cuts to what was clearly a dummy getting pancaked.
That's right. Yeah.
By a truck going at full speed. And it's actually quite still an effective shot. It's the way the beauty of cinema montage and mise-en-scène.
That's right.
Your brain puts together. You told me offline earlier.
Yeah, it was a reverse shot.
Yeah, classic reverse shot.
Yeah.
Which explains why it still doesn't look quite right.
Yes.
Because the truck effectively has him pancaked against it and then moves backwards.
That's right.
It needs to go from 0 to some sort of speed.
Yes.
So when we play it back, it looks like it's gone for some sort of speed, slowing down.
That's right.
Even if they speed it up a bit. But it still works.
It does. It does. Yeah,
well, at least he's that. That threat's gone. Leatherface is still going
Leatherface
crazy.
is still on a rampage, yeah.
And the truck driver pulls over.
Yes.
Black dude. Nice.
Yeah.
Balance. And he stops and he looks out to see what the fuck he just did.
Yeah.
Sees a girl screaming and caked in blood with a guy chasing after with a chainsaw.
Yep.
Opens up his car, lets her in, which, if you were confronted with that in real life, would you not just go, I'm out of here?
That's it, you'll be gone.
But he's like, oh, well, it's obviously a stress. You don't know what the fuck's going on. But they lock the door and jump out the other side. Whilst Leatherface decides to just run his chainsaw against the steel door that they've just closed, as opposed to, jumping up and maybe sticking it through the window, which was open. And they run. They run, but not before the truck driver grabs his weapon, which is a spanner.
Oh, that's right. Hurls it.
And he hurls it at Leatherface, hits him in the head, ow.
Yeah.
Leatherface, swinging his chainsaw, cuts himself in the leg.
Yeah, he cuts his leg, yeah.
Just pisses him off.
Well, yeah, he's pissed now. He's real pissed.
So, firstly, why does this truck driver not have a gun? It's America.
No comment.
But yeah.
These are the days where pipe wrenches was all you need.
That's all you need. Yeah.
Good old pipe wrench.
Stops a bad man with a pipe wrench is a good man with a pipe wrench.
Yeah.
So they're running, and then they come across another...
Yeah, like a truck. We call them a utes out here, but like a pickup truck.
And this driver almost runs them all over.
Yeah.
Instead of actually just swerving and keeping going, as you would when you see a woman covered in blood being chased by a black guy being chased by a guy with a chainsaw, he swings around to pick her up.
Yeah.
The truck driver keeps running. He's running in the opposite direction.
Well, nobody knows where he is to this day.
But the girl jumps in the back of the truck.
Yeah. And
she's screaming and she's hysterical.
Yeah.
And this guy just floors it, looking over his shoulder, seeing there's a woman caked in blood in the back of his truck.
That's right.
As Leatherface just decides, fuck, and swings his chainsaw.
Yeah, he's pissed as.
He's pissed as. And then and at one point he actually says, Toby, what do I do? And Toby says, just keep swimming, we'll end the movie here.
Yeah.
Because we've run out of money.
Yeah.
I think that's what happened. That could be.
I know, you're making it up. I'm going to let that one stick though. Yeah. So the interesting thing about this too, though, is because so Marilyn Burns, who plays Sally in this, is she. The film was all done, so had done all that kind of runaway kind of bit, climbing into the back of the truck as it drove off, and thought everything was done, and then she gets a call saying that the rushes can't come out. So she has to go back and redo all that final scene again. And so she's spent by this point, exhausted. She's, caked in blood again.
So it's just that one shot.
That one shot, just like at the end. and like so that shot is her just kind of going, "Oh,
Fucking over this."
done." Yeah,
It works.
yeah. And then you get the famous kind of shot, as you said, as the sun's starting to rise, as Leatherface is wielding his chainsaw around in anger, and the rest is cinematic history. Yeah. So, I mean, I know you only watched this today.
Yeah.
And I know we normally give us the litmus test 24 hours. So instead of that, what was your gut reaction from after watching this movie?
It is. I mean, I knew it was going to be, but it is a seminal film. I didn't realize how much. I did, but I didn't realize how much films borrowed from it. Not just from the obvious tropes like teenagers, comedy van, cabin in the woods, psychotic family. Psychotic family. I didn't realize was that much of a trope until I realized, oh shit, yeah, the hills have eyes. Left turn or next turn, wrong turn. That's a franchise. Well, Cabin in the Woods is the actual Buckmeyer family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just it's used in films like not even horror films. Breakdown.
Yeah.
J.T. Walsh.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. J.T. Walsh.
Yeah.
And he's a normal family guy who just happens to supplement his income by killing, city slickers.
Yes.
Things like that. I mean, obviously, country people aren't like that. But that perpetuates stereotype. Deliverance, the whole fucking.
I mean,
Deliverance did come before though. This or did it come after?
It's probably. I want to say it was the same year. Personally,
there you go.
I want to say it was 74, but I will look that up while you are talking.
But I think that I didn't realise. But just the one that Simon Chapman worked on, the Australian film. The
Loved Ones.
The Loved Ones, we talked about it before, but Loved Ones, that's a dysfunctional family. You can tell a lot of the imagery of that, around the family.
Deliverance 2 years before, 72.
Oh, right, there you go. But the imagery of a family, people having dinner around the table in a country house, and just like I said before with the other film that Chappie did,
The Devil's Candy.
Where the layout of you walk in, there's a staircase going up, and there's another.
That's right. I didn't think of that. Yeah,
all that, all the imagery and all the feel of it. It as a film, it feels very much like a student film. It feels part documentary. It feels like part found footage, decades before found footage was a thing. It doesn't age well in the sense that yes, it's dated, but you realise shit, this started a lot of things.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's right.
And there's conscious direction here. Like Tobe Hooper's clearly a director. The cinematographer. He admitted at the time he made a lot of mistakes. He's making.
Yeah, that's right.
But he has an eye. And the amount of method acting happening was particularly from the crazy dudes.
Yes.
There's people being serious about trying to be serious. It was Blair Witch. I think probably was it to another level in terms of part social experiment, part film, part what they put the actors through the ring. Because at one point they didn't know if this really was a film.
Of course, that's right. Yeah,
and it's not quite like what's the House on the Left?
I was about to say that last House on the Left. That was you must have been reading my mind because there's a similar kind of vibe thing going there. Very experimental film. Wes Craven. We've done a podcast on it. But Wes Craven very early on. Trying to find his feet a bit, and similarly here, Tobe Hooper's doing the same kind of thing. And it's an experimental horror film, same kind of gritty edge to it, which is going on, which was what would make it such an iconic film of its time and a hallmark film of its time.
Asking you a question. We talked about this with The Exorcist. The famous scene that we always talk about as directors and actors, the shooting a gun. To get a performance. Somewhere by shooting a gun off near their head. And this is very 70s in terms of you hear about these directors doing extreme things to push the cast and action. And there's, a very watered down version is the Roy Schneider playing the dance choreographer in All That Jazz. How he abuses that dancer and gets an amazing performance. Like. Now we're living a post-Me Too, Harvey Weinstein age. And although what these guys aren't doing is sexual, it is abuse, psychological abuse too. I doubt this. It's literally the beginning of 2019. I doubt that you can get away with that shit now.
No, I agree with you. I think there's a time and place for that behaviour.
And it was the 70s. You missed it.
Yeah, like you wouldn't. You'd no way. With too many court cases and.
Oh fuck yeah!
Or that I don't know how you would. What approach you would make to.
So I'm saying, will film suffer because of it?
I don't know. So I remember like just talking. This is a stage performance I did, but I remember once being off stage, and I was due to go on, and I'd had this huge bit of
a coke.
I did. There you go. No, you just answered. Drugs. There's always going to be drugs.
His co-star was like, Paul, you're smashing a coke can into your head. Yeah. Sorry.
But drugs is always going to be around, so therefore fine performances will be around.
Following that, if you're going to be drunk, just spin around and pretend you're dizzy.
Yeah. No, in this instance, I wasn't taking drugs, but I had a bit of an altercation with one of my co-stars, and it led to them slapping me around the face.
Before you went on stage? Before
I went on stage, because she got angry with me, slapped me around the face.
She actually took a swing at you?
Yeah, slapped me around the face. And she's like, I'm not going to hit her. And so I went, and I had all this energy in me, and I went out, and I probably did one of the best performances I've ever done. And so from there on in,
if you're a friend of Paul, every now and then he'll say, hit me now, hit me hard. And
I like it.
You just move on, just do
it. Yeah. No, so look, it's interesting because I the whole kind of your analogy with Roy Scheider from all that jazz. I kind of get that because it's you're using emotion to react. I know because like. If you,
she is screaming for the last 40 minutes of that film, and it is horrific because it's torture porn. And
she's touching, pushed to the edge too.
Yeah, it's touching scenarios where because she's begging. At one point, she begs, "I'll do anything," and that I know from reading Mindhunter that and a victim asking for their money is a big thing for people who want control over another person. And that's fucking harrowing.
Well, it's psychological trauma. And there are so many countless studies into this now that has come to light over like the last decade, which will bring these things and raise question marks certainly around the film industry and what they were trying to do. But the film industry aside, just purely from a society perspective, there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out. And this kind of deep-rooted kind of scar that happens with people that have emotional or physical abuse. And this is kind of one of them. Like, I mean, like, if this is a bit taboo, but like, just even recently, the whole Jeffrey Rush stuff that's kind of come out, and Yellowstone's kind of publicly come out as well, saying that she felt abused at the time. And I'm going to say allegedly because I don't know which side of the story falls. Do you know what I mean? But like, allegedly, like, stuff was. He had done some stuff during a stage performance. I think it was stage performance with her, and all of that is a form of abuse. And I don't know where I'm going with that. I think that
it's like with McLaughlin for playing the Rocky Horror Show. His character's got to be outrageous, and his character would
because I don't know Jeffrey Rush, so I can't comment. But he's always come across to me as quite eccentric. And if he's flamboyant in nature and he carries that energy through with him, maybe he's just blind to the fact of how that may come across to the opposite sex.
Not
just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, that's not to downplay how they feel.
Exactly.
Because no doubt that they legitimately feel.
Exactly, right. So I think that's by the by. This is more about either way, the psychological impact that would have had on, in this case, Yellowstone, is significant, and to the point where she felt the need to speak up about this because of stuff that's come out to light. To shed light, if anything, to shed light on the fact that it's a behaviour that shouldn't be tolerated in the business. And so. And we're only talking about one. I mean, we've gone into kind of sexual empowerment in this case, but like, there's so much more beyond that is coming into effect. There's gaslighting is an example of how people use power over somebody and things like that. So, and that's a harder one to
it's really hard
pinpoint or point the finger at and have proof that people have done this, right? But it's done, and it has a psychological impact on people. I for one would, and I won't disclose here, but would say that I feel like I've been a victim of gaslighting in my
Big
life.
Time. That was me.
Yeah, it was you.
And you really need to get over that. Because that wasn't real, did it? It was a joke, bro.
Yeah, no, you're right. It was a joke.
It was a joke.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, life savings.
Yeah, all right.
Your life is not over.
I know.
You can earn more life savings.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I won't push it any further. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So the but the point is that so we're talking about the craft, the medium of filmmaking, and to the what is there such a thing as a limit of pushing an actor these days? I think you can look at it the other way around, whereas because you can look at the stuff that some actors do to themselves in order to capture the
to be a character.
To be a character. Christian Bale has done it in The Machinist and other films.
They're doing it now with Chaney.
Yeah, exactly. So there are people there are actors that are that method, that they will push themselves to the brink, right? And as a director, you would then obviously allow an actor to go so far. You have to be. You also are the director, so you've got to be able to try and pull the reins back.
Yeah, for me as a director, I'd be like, if that's what he wants to do, then fucking because it makes me look good. But once it starts encroaching on another actor's process,
exactly,
then you're like, fuck.
So and also, so I'm using my own experience as well, right? Yeah. So there was a time when I was at university doing drama, and there was we were like 3 or 4 of us in this kind of group session, and it was each week a different person would take a role of directing. And this guy, he's a great director actually. I have a lot of respect for him. He was really good with what he did. He had this really cool system where he wanted to let things grow organically, and he did say right at the very beginning, I kind of want to allow freedom of the improvisation to flow through, and just to see where it goes, because that's where I want to use that to write stuff and create with it. And he said there's an out though. If it's getting too much, you can just lift up your card. We had cards at the time or something. Okay. He said lift the card up and just say you're tired out.
Could have safety word.
But pineapple. And I was in a scenario, and this guy I was acting with was pushing my character's buttons, and I did that in inverted commas, inverted quotes. But my character's buttons to the point where I was getting really agitated with the way he was being towards me. Yeah. That if I had carried on, I would have punched him in the face. Right. And I had to go. I have to stop because I'm gonna hurt him. Yeah, right. And so I actually had to step out of character, and it's the only time I've ever had to do that. Right. Where I've actually had to say no, stop. Yeah, right. Because I don't want to hurt the guy, but I would have done. Right. I would have punched him in the face. Yeah. So I don't know. My point is that there's a responsibility from all parties to know what's allowed and how far people are willing to go, and it's the whole consent thing would come up. Yeah, but again, we always talk about, because we're such a nanny state now, and everything's politically correct, and you can't do this. And you can't do that. That's right. Yeah. Inversely, though, we look at so many things from the previous decades, 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, even 90s, even. Yeah. But and think, how the fuck do they do that? Yeah, how the fuck do you get over that? Yeah. Simple thing, monkey bars. You know, I remember monkey bars. Yeah. Right above asphalt. Fall off the monkey bar. Hit some fucking asphalt. Yeah. Looking back, I walked through a playground in a park area, and it still gets me when I walk past the swing set and I'm on a spongy thing. No, same. Looks like concrete. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Did you have climbing frames out here in Australia? Yeah. So they were like usually like a square shape, and you would just climb to the top of it, right? Yeah. And the same kind of thing. It's an asphalt, so like people would fall off, and because it was metal climbing frames, metal poles. Yeah.
Dude, just
Yeah.
shake it off.
Different world.
What's as well. But yeah, that's why you have a film where a guy swings an actual working chainsaw
Yeah.
3 inches from somebody's face and he's blind because he can't see.
So like, but the thing is, like, and I don't know, like, I love these kind of movies. Yes, question them ethically about their approach to it, but I love people who are creative minds allowed to push their creativity to the limits with no holds barred.
Yeah.
There's something about that because it comes across on the screen and it adds to the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
And this is definitely its trump card is the fact that it feels real.
Yeah.
And a lot of critics have said that
It does.
post screening, and because of that, I think I will always appreciate this film. Like the fact that just aside from the fact that it's like the grandfather of horror films in our modern age, right?
Yeah.
And it just set the tone for millions of films beyond. So. Yeah, so I don't know. That's kind of where I sit with it. I do have a liking of this film. It's like you were saying, neither of us are fans of torture porn, but as far as those kind of movies go, I have a lot of time for this one.
Yeah.
And I will watch it and watch it and watch it because there's something about it, something that draws me in each time.
Yeah, I mean, the Loved Ones is a torture porn film.
Yeah,
but it's done really well.
Yeah, there's yes. The storytelling of that is what grips you. I mean, the cinematography aside, because that is
but the director knows what he's doing.
Exactly.
And it's very well written.
Yes, it's very well written.
Because the twists and turns are very deliberate and everything else. And the humour behind... Yeah, just we're talking about another film here, but the bit where the girl at the end gets her comeuppance, but she's been run over. But she suddenly comes crawling in the shop with a steak knife going... and it's just as... And again, it's a really... what I call the comedic long shot.
Yeah.
Boom. And...
Yeah, I have a soft spot for that film.
Yeah.
It's I'm sure it's coming up to celebrating
some
anniversary soon, so maybe we should do a podcast on it.
Mr. Chappie.
Chappie. Get Chappie back.
Doctor Who with Chappie.
Yes.
He can talk about it now.
Yay.
But I mean, look, Tobe Hooper was clearly a director.
Yeah.
He's learning his craft. He's making mistakes, but he's clearly a director. The cinematographer learning his craft. Making mistakes. Clearly a cinematographer.
That's right.
And lightning in a bottle. Things just
lightning in a bottle.
Came right for which I understand why it's influenced so many films.
Absolutely.
So personally, no, I'm not a big that sort of film / a horror film.
No.
But
here's the thing, right? We have asked this question in the past, like, does this film stand the test of time today? It's considered classic, but what do the current generation think of this kind of film? And we're doing a bit of a new segment with these podcasts where we're going to ask one of these new gen people.
She calls herself Gen Z.
Gen Z. Oh,
she's a millennial. She's a millennial.
Yeah. So look, we're gonna pass over to our resident intern Charlie to give us her thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Charlie.
Wait, what?
Oh wait, she's finished.
What? I said what?
She actually said what?
Oh well, thanks, Charlie. Interesting. So look, stick around because so for all the big ones out there, we'll get her back to kind of give her thoughts on them and where they stand today. Before we kind of round up, I just obviously haven't mentioned Kim Henkel, who was the co-writer of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because he would also come back and. He'd write Eaten Alive.
Eaten Alive.
Again. But he would also write and direct the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, aka the one with Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey.
So what? This is the Before They Were Both Unknowns, right?
Yeah.
And so in a nutshell, what's that about? That version? Picture.
Oh my god! Okay. You put me on the spot. I have to try and remember what it was right now. So basically, from memory, there's a teenagers, and there's a car crash, I think, at the beginning, which leaves them stranded in the middle of nowhere. And they kind of stumble across the farmhouse, which happens to be Leatherface and his family.
These family must go, Christmas again.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
lucky are we?
Yeah. But that's kind of it. Like, in a nutshell, that is what it is. It's but we're going to talk about that down the track. We're going to talk about all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films throughout, and we're also, as I said at the head of film, we're going to go through all the Tobe Hooper movies too. But that probably wraps up our chat on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So Massacre. That's So Massacre. Yeah. So, but yeah, do keep an eye out and listen out. Put your ears out there for future podcasts as we go through all the Tobe Hooper and Texas Chainsaw stuff for the rest of season 5. Until then, I am your host as always, Saul Muerte, and I was joined by the big cheese, Anthony Yee.
G'day.
Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nezik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.